I just thank the Lord 1,000 times. Finally, I found the one that
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Black Girl Joy. Today, we are talking about a super serious topic, breast cancer. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I am super excited to welcome a special guest to tell her story. But before we get started, I want to say if you feel like you may have breast cancer or some other illness, please make sure you get checked out. We'll be talking today from the perspective of a survivor, but we cannot give medical advice and would not want to because we are not professionals. So please make sure you go get help. So to set the stage for where we are, I have a couple of facts that I want to share with you guys. So for US women in the USA, their lifetime risk of breast cancer is 1 in 8. And then 31% of, well, actually not 31%, but African American women have a 31% breast cancer mortality rate. So, and that is the highest of that rate is in the younger generation, so younger than 45. So, we're going to break down this super important issue, and that based on these numbers, we need to talk about it. So, let me welcome our guest, Angela Crew.
Hello. How are you doing today?
Good. So for those who don't know, Angela is my first cousin. You can see we kind of look alike.
Yes, we
Everyone says.
do.
Yes. So let's just dig right in because I always go over. So let's go ahead and dig in. Can you tell us, because I was telling you before we started, I don't even know like your story in detail. So can you give us kind of a preview of your story?
Yes. Okay. So I don't think anyone really knows. Well, not too many people know my story in detail.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 years ago, I was experiencing a pain in my right breast, and I thought it was a muscle spasm because at that time I had a personal trainer and I was lifting heavy weights.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of felt like a muscle spasm to me, or another analogy I can use is it almost kind of felt like if someone was putting a cigarette out. It was such a
Oh.
sharp pain. And so I would rub across it. It would last a couple of days, or maybe even just a couple of hours or a couple of
Mm-hmm.
minutes, and then it would just go away. And so one day I rubbed across it and I felt a lump. And it was like a pea-sized lump. Not only did I feel the lump, but I looked down, and even with my shirt on, I could visibly see that there was a lump. Yes. And so from there, I went to the doctor to get a mammogram.
Mm-hmm.
And they immediately took me from the mammogram to have an ultrasound. and I had the BRCA test, and that's to determine if you're carrying the cancer gene in the back. The BRCA test showed that I didn't carry the cancer gene, but the ultrasound showed that the shape of the lump was suspicious. So I had a biopsy. I had a biopsy on my right breast and under my arm, because they also detected something under my arm. And what they do, which I didn't know, is that when they remove the tissue, they leave a little marker. And the marker is something like a little silver, like a BB for a BB gun. They left it in my chest, and I was protesting. I didn't want them to leave the mark. I don't know why I was protesting about having the marker, but I protested about the marker. He said he absolutely had to leave it in my breast where they removed the tissue, but he said he didn't necessarily need to leave it in the armpit area. And so I waited, and it took forever to get the results back. But the results came back that I had cancer in my right breast and in my lymph nodes under my right arm. And so from there, I went to an oncologist where they ran additional tests, and they determined I was at stage 2B. And 2B means that it basically started to spread. And anytime it hits your lymph nodes, that's a high risk of it spreading to other parts of your body. Also, the type of cancer was diagnosed at that time too, and it was triple negative breast cancer. And triple negative is an aggressive form of cancer. Triple negative is an aggressive form of cancer. And at that time, I inquired about basically the options, the time associated with that type of cancer. And I was told I had a 34% chance of living 2 years at the time. Yes. And so, as I mentioned, that was 5 years ago, July of 2016. And by January 2017, which is 6 months later, I was diagnosed cancer-free. And I'm not talking about in remission where, cancer is stable. I was diagnosed completely cancer-free.
Yeah. So I've never heard this. I'm echoing for some reason. Do you hear it?
I hear a little bit. I hear are you hearing my voice echo too?
Just me.
Okay.
But no, so when you said that triple negative, that's part of the stats that I saw, that young African American women often do have that triple negative type of breast cancer, and it's very aggressive.
Right. And triple negative normally impacts women of color. Yes.
So let me ask you this. You said something very curious that we didn't talking about, but it came up. You said you don't think anyone hardly knows your story. Why do you think that is? Like, why is that?
Why is that? First of all, one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that I had cancer, that I was going through cancer. I didn't want to try to keep that secret. That part, just about all of my family knew, except for, of course, at that time, I was told, don't worry your grandma. We don't want your grandma worried, because otherwise she'll be worrying you. And so I think everyone knew except for my grandmother. But the diagnosis and the life expectancy, I did not. I chose to keep that to myself just because I knew the impact that would have on people, and that would create unnecessary stress on people, which I would also feel. And I didn't need that kind of stress.
Okay. So was there anyone you were talking to about it?
Yeah, there was someone at the time that was actually assisting me through this process. In fact, there was 2 people. well, when I went to get my initial when I initially went to an oncologist to talk about the findings, um, I brought with me a person who had already experienced breast cancer, a breast cancer survivor, and she helped me gather the information. And to me, that was so key because at points I was zoning in and out. You know, you can imagine a lot of information coming to me at one time. And she kept notes. She knew the questions to ask and everything. And so, yes, so that person knew. And then I had someone else, a friend, who assisted me through the process with the doctor visits and stuff like that. He also knew. And so I think one of the things that helped me that I had people who were close, but yet not so close that they would be overly attached, but could have clear minds to help guide me.
Okay. So when you went through this process, you found out, what was the emotional toll?
One of the things which is really odd to me, is that when I first got the diagnosis, and it was my gynecologist, they gave me the diagnosis, the report made it back to her, and so she gave it to me. And she didn't even know how to tell me. She stood there debating with herself in front of me about how she should tell me, which was extremely odd. And but when she told me, it was almost as if it was like almost like an out of body experience. It's like she wasn't telling me. It was like she was trying to tell the person next to me, and I was just standing, sitting there listening to what she was telling. And and it's almost, which is a little funny and crazy. It's almost like, oh my God, girl, what you gonna do about that? You got serious diagnosis. It almost as if it didn't happen to me, as if I was listening to it happen to someone else. And so I guess it's that disconnection I had with those results. And I pretty much kind of kept that disconnection just about through the whole process. And that may have helped me too. I knew that there was some serious work that needed to be done, but I wasn't feeling sorry for myself or anything like that. I think when they said that it was an aggressive form of cancer, that I knew that I also had to be aggressive, and I just took my time to do a lot of research, and I kind of threw everything I could think of at it.
Did you keep going on with everyday life?
Yes, I think that's probably a flaw in our system, where when you can experience something so traumatic and you're expected to go to work and everything. Yeah, so my job was a little lenient. They were lenient about, the times they worked around, the treatment and stuff like that. But I know some people who go have treatment and then go straight back to work. But if I felt tired, I would do my work later in the day. And probably one of the reasons is that the CEO of my organization also had cancer maybe about a year earlier. And so the whole company felt the effects of that. And so, they were definitely working with me.
That's good. I had a friend who had thyroid cancer, and he literally, it was a he, and the manager was like, "Oh, you moved slow on his performance review. Like you were working slowly, you were moving slowly," which I felt was so unfair.
I'm just amazed at how unsympathetic people can be about people who have cancer. And I wonder I think people have problems relating to it because sometimes it's not visible until you're at a really late stage. But there's like the signs are there. When you have cancer, it actually feeds off your body, and you feel severe fatigue when you have cancer. So, and then you pile on it the chemo and radiation and stuff and surgery, and so you can only imagine what toll that takes on your body.
So did you go through chemo and radiation?
Yes. So I did. I had, they recommended that I have 12 rounds of chemo, and one of the two different types of chemo. And one of the forms of chemo, they had a nickname called the Red Devil. And so it was a extremely strong chemotherapy. And when you take it, your urine turns red and your tongue turns black and nails turn black. So a lot of things came with that. And in addition to that, I had surgery. Now they suggested that I have a lumpectomy, where it's just removing that lump of where the cancer was and removing my lymph nodes. But because it was an aggressive form of cancer and the strong family history we have of cancer, I elected to have both breasts removed. And that, I think, shocked a lot of people that I would make that kind of decision. But I kind of went through our family history to kind of think about some of the decisions that were made and some of the outcomes. And I thought that path would be best for me. And after I had the breast removed, they looked at the tissue, and they didn't see any cancer at all in the tissue.
Okay.
Not in the lymph nodes, not nowhere. But also I was doing a lot of other things that I had read up on to decrease the size of the cancer cells. I started juicing, and I lost a lot of weight. If you lose weight, go ahead and just juice, just go strictly juice, vegetable juice. And I was also doing herbal teas that had a lot of people had great results with. I was also going outside of the box and doing stuff like what's it called? It's different frequency of beats, being around different frequency of beats.
Like the sound baths?
This one is just listening to different sounds of different frequencies. And that some people have said that it can change your body. And so I was doing quite a few different things.
So once you went through the changes, like the chemo physical changes and the breast augmentation or taking off your breast, did you have any issues emotionally or psychologically as you were going through all of that, or were you in survivor mode?
One other thing, I also kept very busy. So all those things were going on, and I was going on girls' trips. I was traveling to Puerto Rico. I was traveling to different islands, and I was staying extremely busy and doing work. So I was staying busy. As I mentioned, I was kind of detached from the whole situation. And I knew what had to be done, so I tried not to focus on it. When I look back on it, the fact that there was a period of time when I had no breast, I even took a picture and posted it with, not having any breast. And I look back at that now, like, what in the world were you doing? But I was just so detached from the situation, and knew that that's what I needed to do. And I also knew that it was important for me to show others what I was doing. I knew that journey and putting that out there was vital, and it's definitely vital now.
Did it ever hit you?
Some moments now, I could feel like I get like PTSD at times when I feel something, and it could be anything, and I'm like, oh, wait, what's that? Because with having cancer at the time, I don't know exactly what caused it. And I can't be sure of how I got rid of it. And so with those unknowns, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. So, but this whole woe is me, and that never hit me. It still hasn't hit me. There was a time where after I had the breast removed, and they put the expanders in, because I also, when I had the breast removed, I asked them to remove as much tissue, the skin, as possible.
Mm.
And so the skin was real tight. So in order for them to put implants in, they had to put in expanders, which is it looks like I guess what it does is they put it in flat, and over time it kind of expands out, and you can feel it ripping the tissue and nerves. And that had me screaming at times. And if yeah, a lot of people have voiced their concerns with that process, and it's not a short process. So that was the only part that I really knew that really got to me.
So it sounds like as soon as you found out that you went to the doctor.
I, well, I did initially, and then when I got that result, I went and got 3 other additional opinions, and over a period of 2 weeks. And over that period of 2 weeks, the tumor doubled in size. So that's why if you're diagnosed with cancer, they really ask you to start the treatment immediately. Because you can imagine with it already being in my lymph nodes and ready to spread, the risk I was putting myself in.
How long did it take you to get those comparisons? Those 3?
Oh, that was a period of 2 weeks
Oh, that wasn't.
that I got that. Yeah, because it takes time to get on the doctor's
Yeah.
schedule, and then I'll do all the tests. And so, but I didn't know I was putting myself at a risk of I knew it was aggressive cancer. I just didn't know it was that aggressive, that it would double in size in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So that brings up something else I wanted to talk about is how often in the African American community, especially Black women, I think Black men too, we avoid the doctor. And we do not like the doctor. So from my personal experience, I just went to the doctor this past year. I had not been to a primary care physician or had a primary care physician in maybe 13 years.
Yes. I'm glad you brought this topic up. Well, I had been getting mammograms,
Mhm.
but there had been a period where I had also stopped. So it had been 3 to 4 years since I had a mammogram. But they told me that the cancer that I had was so aggressive that in between the mammograms, I mean, it probably wouldn't have caught it. Um, so, but I think one of the reasons that African Americans really don't go to the doctor, one is the cost and making sure the insurance covered, even if the insurance covers it, you still may have some additional costs. And in the community, there's this old saying, oh, you keep going, they're going to find something, which is almost,
It's kind of
when
true.
and you just take for granted when you hear, you're like, oh yeah, they're going to, you keep going to the doctor, they're going to find something. But the reason you go to the doctor is because you're sick. People aren't just going to the doctor. You go to the doctor, if they find something, then you work with the doctor to come up with a solution. It's not like you go to the doctor, they find something, they're going to drag you and do all these things to you. So you have to participate in your wellness.
Mhm.
And that was also key. Once they gave me the diagnosis, they gave me options. I did my research, and we made decisions as a team. But first, you need to know what's wrong with you.
Mhm.
With cancer, you can't wait. This is something you can't wait on. And you never know if it's cancer. So if you're not feeling well, go to the doctor. If they find something, make a decision what you want to do with it. But go to the doctor.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds nice, but it's difficult, right? It takes a level of courage. So I know I'm one to be like, well, it'll go, if it goes away in a day, I'm okay. And I realize another thing that's happening is I'm getting older, right? And you're really young to have gone through all of this 5, 6 years ago. But
I'm
I
not that
realize,
young, but okay. I'll take it, but okay.
I mean, for cancer, I don't know. You're like, I won't ask you your age. I want to, but I won't.
Okay, I'll be 57 next week.
Oh, I didn't know you would be 57. I didn't know that. But you're still young. You're still young. You're still young and vibrant.
Thank
Like
you.
we think of cancer as like older people, like weak and nimble, and it really, I think, hits us a little younger than what we are expecting.
Right, and I don't know why we think it's older people when these, especially cancer, is hitting a lot younger people. Along my journey, some of these women were in their 20s and 30s. So I don't think, even though we don't want to go to the doctor, I think we're going to have to push ourselves to go to the doctor. I think there's far more peace in knowing that they test you and it was nothing than wondering, okay, this pain is still here. You know, and then wondering what it could be, because just because you don't go to the doctor doesn't mean you stop worrying about the pain. You still worry about the pain you have, and the risk of not getting it checked out in timely manner is absolutely not worth it, regardless of what it is.
You're right. We're working up to it. We're working up, because there's the cost aspect, and then it's the fear that, okay, if I find something, then I have to do something about it.
Right.
And that is terrifying. Depending
Right.
on what you think it is terrifying. So it's almost like, let me just ignore it. I feel okay today. Let me block it out and have fun and do whatever. And then we also live in a society that is very I'm going to call it like the capitalism curse, right? It's like you constantly got to work. So you have to, if you're not working, you're not living, you're not making money. So it's like, okay, if I'm sick, am I going to have to mix work? Do I have short-term, long-term, like
Right.
benefits available to me? Am I going to go on FMLA? Are they going to pay me my check? So I think it's so much wrapped up in like going to the doctor. I went to the doctor. I had a test about a month and a half ago, and I walked in. They did not tell me how much it was going to cost. They said, "Oh, you owe us I think it was $1,100 or $1,400 before we do the test." I'm in the office for the test. I've done all the prep work for the test. I'm like, I said, what? So, and I'm still getting bills from that, right? So it's almost like, okay, do you want to go? Oh, nothing was found. And it gives you the sense of, if I go, I'm going to spend all this money and nothing's found. But the truth is, you really do have to figure this stuff out early. And
Right.
to me, it's important to have doctors that you are comfortable with. So I have intentionally, like, I seek out Black female doctors.
Right.
And that's just for me. And just any doctor that you feel takes your issue seriously, because as Black women, it can be looked over so easily. Like, oh, you're just complaining.
Right. Right. You definitely have to find someone you feel comfortable with. And yeah, I did quite a bit of searching as part of that. In fact, that radiation I was actually planning on doing at a place closer to my home. And I'd gone there and I didn't get that great of vibes about the place. And then on the first day of scheduled radiation, I went there and they put the markers on me for the radiation, and my gut just told me get up, and that's exactly what I did. I took that stuff off me, I got up and went to another place. So you definitely have to be strong in making your decisions. If your gut says do something else, do something else. If your gut says get checked out, get checked out. And if your gut tells you to get a second or third opinion, you do that. One of my doctors, a major doctor in the U.S. over cancer treatment, he told me your body basically tells you what's going on with you. So it's up to you to listen. And so it's very important for us to listen to our body and make sound decisions for ourselves. The doctors participate in decisions. They will not force you into a decision. Okay.
Do you think did you start to live a more healthy lifestyle after going through this?
On most days, not all days, because over the last month, I've just gone crazy. But a lot of things have changed in my diet. The type of water I drink, the food I eat. There's certain foods that I don't eat anymore. I drink a lot of tea. Um, there's periods where I go through and I do fasting. One of the things I do now, which is I know is so annoying to my family, when I'm around them, I tell them, "Oh, you don't need to be doing this." I give them advice, probably way too much advice,
Don't do that.
what they should be doing. And I spoke to a relative, just off the top of my head. I was just like, as a family, we need to be fasting certain times of year. And next year, I think I'm going to start this where I'm get both sides of my family, and we fast.
Mm.
Fast. And because that will help cure a lot of illnesses just by fasting.
Mm.
You're going to be the first person on top of the list. Okay.
I don't know about that one. How long is your fast? How long do you fast for?
Well, there's different types of fast. So we may want to do like a green fast for about a month,
Oh.
Or just removing sugar and flour for a month, and stuff like that. So we can agree as a family. The fact that we're working together for a change is good. I don't expect everyone to immediately get there. I'm not where I want to be, but we as a family, I don't think we can sit back anymore and just let just say, okay, cancer runs in our family. Without acting upon it as a family. And that brings me back to something else that I mentioned earlier about talking to family and about my experience and leveraging what I learned from what family members had done. And one of the people I didn't tell that I had cancer was my grandmother, but she sensed it. And so when I went to see her, she asked me just directly, "Did you have cancer? You have cancer?" I said, "Yes, Grandma, but I'm fine now. I don't have cancer." She said, "Good." She said, "My sister had cancer, but she had both her breasts removed and she didn't pass from cancer." And I was like, I should have known that information. I was doing stuff, kind of winging it.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that we let our family know what options we took and what worked and what didn't work for us.
But we don't talk about this stuff.
Right.
We will say somebody had cancer. We will say somebody like my mom had ALS. A lot of people kind of, saw more of that happening, but we don't really talk about like things like this. That's very important, to the point where some of the stuff I've gone to the doctor like, do your parents have this in their medical history?
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, and he won't tell me. So
Right.
and it's really detrimental to the next generation, because some of the stuff we can have worked out, or we know to check for certain stuff, but we do not talk about it. It's almost seen as people's kind of private business.
Right. And it's not. It really isn't. If these genes are passed down for family members, generations and generations, so how private is that? We all need to know, what's going on with each other's body and what we're doing to fix it. Because a lot of issues could be fixed just by that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that on one side of my family, we would have these like boils that would come on you, and different members would have it. And one of the family members found a simple solution to fix it, and shared it with the rest of the family. And if something like over the counter, real quick stuff, so it's important that we let each other know what's going on. We absolutely have to pass this down among the generations of what happened or what we're doing.
Yeah, I always wonder why that is. Like, so I usually link stuff to like slavery. Like, that's my thing. I go all the way back. Everything's related to slavery to me, like how we interact with each other. But I wonder why we have a
fear of appearing weak.
Maybe.
We have a fear of people talking about us. And and bottom line, who cares? I really, that's one thing about this diagnosis and going through this process. I care far less about what anyone has to say about, especially when you're trying to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. I went through the same thing. After Mama, I was like, I don't really care.
Right.
My filter is like,
Exactly.
because but that at the end of the day, that's it, right? Like, so you can't, even when it comes to getting a diagnosis, like you can't be worried about what other people are gonna think, what other people are
Right.
gonna say, but we also have to learn how to be supportive of each other. And for every person that goes through something like this, it's gonna look different based on their personality and
Right.
their experience. So I think
Yes.
that's another place for us to grow, is how do we support? So how would you say, what would have been the best support for you?
Yeah, I think the best support for me was if I the process, I actually wouldn't change a thing as far as my support structure.
Mhm.
I had family members would come in when I had surgery. They would be there for a couple of days when I had surgery, and then they would go back out. I would stay in communication with them, but close to me, I would have people who weren't as attached to the whole situation that was helping me, you know, through the process. For family members, it's kind of hard when you see someone that's kind of feel like they're mourning you and you're still alive. That I didn't want. I absolutely didn't want that. So I made sure that I kept a somewhat of a distance, and I kept around me friends that I knew just wanted to have fun, that wanted to do things, and that's exactly what I did. So I wouldn't change anything.
All right. So what would be your advice to someone who's going through this, or someone who's supporting someone who's going through this?
First, my advice is prevention. There's tons and tons of information on preventing cancer. In addition to the family genes that could spread, cancer can travel down. Also, bad eating habits goes down generations, lack of exercise goes down generations. So you can change those things that could help change the outcome as well. In fact, my doctor expressed to me that one of the reasons that I was doing so well in my treatment is because as I was exercising, I had, personal trainer and everything at the time. You can't afford to try to get healthy, and in shape when you're sick. You have to add that prevention, change your diet, especially if you have that history. Look at foods that you should and shouldn't be eating as part of your family history and that type of cancer. Um, I would say go to the doctor. If you're not feeling well, go to the doctor. Um, and use that information just to guide your decision. Even if it costs money, you pay the money back. You decide not to pay the money back. Either way, but you know what's wrong with you and you make a decision from at that point. The outcome of what it could be is far worse than the thousand or a couple of thousands of dollars, you know, that at a cost is part of your treatment. I mean, you could go and buy a new car, you're going to have a problem. But if someone sends you a couple of $1,000 medical bill, to help save your life, we need to really weigh the way we think about certain things. Okay. And as far as supporting someone who has cancer, I would say remain upbeat, remain positive, help them in doing their research and in their care, and the options.
All right. Well, the one thing I want to add to that is ask questions. Ask your family, even if they won't tell you, ask and ask again, because we really do need to learn more about our family history. And that even impacts what insurance sometimes will pay for when it comes to testing. If you have a medical history of breast cancer, you can usually get a mammogram a little bit easier and cheaper than you would if you're young and you don't show a history of it.
Right. And there's quite a few free mobile mammogram services. So look online to see what services may be available in your community.
Yeah, and also self-check. I think they say monthly.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Miss Angela.
And
We
thank
really,
you.
we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. So happy that you were able to like share your journey and be here to share your journey, given all that you went through. So I just want to like honor you for that. And then for everyone else, we'll be back next week with our. Oh, wait, you have something?
Yes, I just want to say sending love, prayers, and condolences to our family in Miami during this time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everyone else, we will have a special guest next week. We reschedule our parenting children with special needs. And so that's what we'll be talking about next week. All right, until next time, see you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Be a joy.